Now we're going to begin the first section to discuss building a platform for textile legacies. We're very excited to invite Ms. Sharon de Lyster, the founder of Textile Atlas and Narrative Made from Hong Kong, for a presentation. Then it will be followed by a crosstalk with Paola Sinisterra, our Director of Textile Programs. Unfortunately, today, our invited speaker, Nguyen Huyen, is not able to join us at this forum today because of some urgent family issue. So Sharon, may I now invite you to the front, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me? I'll try to speak to the mic. Okay, thank you, Chad, for having me. It's an honor to be here with so many textile experts. Today, I'm going to share about one of my projects called the Textile Atlas, which has just received the Design for Asia Grant Award and Grant Award for Culture this week. So it's really honored, and it's come in such a timing for me to actually reflect on why I do this, what is the vision, and what is the point of building textile legacies. So as a designer, researcher, writer, entrepreneur, my understanding of textile legacy has really evolved over the short career that I have. But it's been so refreshing because I think this is a conversation that's constantly changing and that we have to constantly readdress it with new eyes, with new minds, with new findings and technologies. So the Textile Atlas is a platform to communicate the various perspectives on artistic engagement, cultural heritage, and the creative economy related to crafts, especially textiles. Today, I want to explore a few questions, mainly like why build a platform of legacy? Who is the legacy for? Is it for people like us, textile lovers, buyers, collectors, professional researchers, or is it for craftsmen themselves to be acknowledged, to keep a record of the disappearing crafts, the techniques, or is it for the international designers, the artists, to be inspired or to partner with them? So a few years ago, I started exploring heritage textiles through field trips and researching on artisans' communities. Firstly, I love traveling. It brought me to amazing places like what you see here. They're very remote, pushed me to the boundary, but I see that this actually broadened my life a lot. Secondly, I had a goal to find usable textiles for my collection. For Narrative Made, which is the design studio that I run. So the picture that you see on the right is some of the outcome of those creation. These textiles mixed with some from Bangladesh, China, and Japan. So also, I wanted to understand why artisan-made textiles made it so hard to incorporate into the mainstream fashion. Apart from scalability, lead time, different infrastructure in developing regions, what else contribute to that disconnect? So I met people and saw their lives. I went to their home. I ate a lot of their food. I probably tried on all their clothing. And they've been really kind to me. What is this Chinese girl coming to see us? But I made a lot of friends, and I tried to be as respectful as I can be as an outsider. The problem, though, I found, my trips became so material-driven that my sole goal is to find things I can use. So this individual artisans that's in front of me, and each time I get to encounter can easily be reduced to what they do, what they are able to do, what they are capable of doing with me, because I was seeing everything through my lens. So I started to spend more time learning about the culture, to try to be a team when it comes to communicating textiles. Then people from various parts of the world start to ask me to be a consultant and kind of help them to assist this process. And it made me wonder, like, why is this so why does the distance appear, and why there needs to be a middle person all the time? Fashion brands of different sizes come to me and ask for engagement or advice or partnership with engagement with handmade crafts. But it's not easy for them to kickstart. Not everyone have the time to invest the money and also the energy, and to learn and find artisans themselves, and to build, most importantly, that reliable and trustable partnerships. However, for me, human partnerships cannot be outsourced. Having middlemen to handle everything is easy and fast and is efficient, but you only get to appreciate the value of the textile at its completion, and once again take the social side out of the context of textile making process. So as much as I like interacting with artisans, I believe the best way is to promote ethical sourcing and really allowing the artisans and buyers to find each other freely, easily, and have that genuine and open partnership. So not until you know someone by name, you cannot rightfully credit them. Not until you care for someone, you can't share the risk of and concerns of, like, say, the roof being destroyed by the rain, or happy to wait a bit longer if there is, wedding celebrations happening in the household. So I think designer and artisans engagement is a big topic. I'm not going to go into it today. But another thing that I also saw is, obviously not all crafts are made for trade. They embedded historical stories and it's with specific meanings to the makers. And but the other thing is they're also not just meant to be put behind glass in museums. There are many ways to appreciate these textiles, this heritage, to respect them as living cultures. And we should continue to encourage them to be living and be practiced. So what they can benefit, the communities that I get to see, is not necessarily income from export or even in the domestic markets, but recognition within the community and society and documentation of the disappearing crafts at its current stage. So the Textile Atlas exists really to first tell these craft stories, secondly, have the artisans who want to be connected to be able to have access to market and found by designers and other collaborators. So I'm going to show you a short video to give you a better idea. Yeah. When we look at heritage textiles, it's as much about the unique techniques, special history and meaning, as well as the social significance. For the rest of my presentation, I'm going to bring you on a tour and try to understand how these crafts that I'm showing you are so closely linked to their cultures. And hopefully, through these stories, we can find the answers to some of the questions I posed in the beginning. Now, a few disclaimers. The mention of textile heritage so far have maybe set the tone where you're imagining people live in poverty and they need help to pass on the traditions. They may need help financially to support their lives or need brands from outside to be involved. But that's not necessarily true, not always true. I invite you to see through the pride in their crafts and the satisfaction in their lives, and also how they take their problems into their own hands. You also see a lot of what I do is trying to encourage the families to stay together, because that's key when parents stay in the home town with their kids to encourage the pass on of the tradition. So, legacy of a settled past. First, we meet the Kannada nomads in Changtang-Padu. It's located in northern India near Ladakh, between Pakistan and Tibet. Like most nomads, these guys know the land. They know very well, and they know how much threats they're in. They live in tents with the animals like yaks and lambs, travel great distance each year between the summer and winter camps. Herding's become one of their most valuable knowledge and cultural asset. The traditional textiles is mainly weaving with various wool and yak hairs, done widely in open air, even at minus 40 degrees in winter. So as you can see, it's quite tough situation, but also very tough culture. Very resilient, that's what I meant to say. So they make functional pieces for the nomadic lifestyle, as you can see, like carpets for the tents and the side bags that they carry wherever they go. Very functional. Now, with climate change, many are forced to settle and live in permanent homes. While the government gives them land to stay, they have little recognition and support to be integrated into the society. While some still weave in open space, as you can see in that picture, outside of their new structures, it's quite a different life. And the younger generations have questions on their identity. Textile making, from wool gathering to carding to spinning, weaving together with herding, the rare skills that they can offer as something very unique to that local society. In fact, if they keep tending animals, they have more chance to earn a sustainable income with pashmina and wool production. So social enterprise like Riakard, one of my partners, where these pictures are from, work with the current nomads and the settled nomads to establish a closed loop of production within the same community. Oh, what happened? Sorry, I thought there was another slide. So what we're hoping to achieve next is actually start a winter school program to allow the kids to explore elements of their heritage nomadic lifestyles, which gives them the knowledge and also the option to make a living out of still taking care of the animals and selling pashmina and woven pieces. Now, I want to look at a legacy that is for building a future. From the desert, now we go to a forest. We turn to a village in Jelampa, central Java of Indonesia, where batik and homegrown indigo dye is done. This is a project that I'm involved with a local partnership as well, to build a workshop in the village where it can be a communal place big enough for both men and women to work on batik and sustain the income. The current setup is very simple, as you can see there. In the village, without batik work, generally per adult earn about $1 per day based on irregular farm work. Since our partner Chikachuta started introducing contemporary batik orders in, they're able to earn $6 per day if there is stable work. So this is where the current work is done. Literally, it's one family's backyard. So the new communal workplace would allow more villagers to take part in the craft, but also with more possibility for stable work and a safer environment, not tripping over everything. And because of batik work, it needs to have a lot of air circulation and keeps the pots heat. So there's a lot of fire hazard concern as well. They will also be able to keep their traditional way of making batik possible in the new communal place. So sharing this legacy then is to contribute to poverty alleviation as well as keeping the traditions alive. These are some pieces from our collaboration, a collection that is inspired by kindness towards the sojourner, the outsiders, the refugees. You can, yeah, it's in the chat shop downstairs, so do make your way down there and support. Next, let's consider a legacy for stitch diary. So what do you mean, what do I mean by a diary? This is a case of very intricate textiles that does not need mass production or scalability, but it is a living tradition in parts of Guizhou, the Miao tin grim embroidery. Some of you might already know the special textiles where tin strips are interwoven into the base thread stitch to form this special form of embellishment. So it is usually displayed like this on the left. As a complete outfit. And when you view under the magnifier, it looks something like that. So even there is even like thread embroidery in between the tin areas and between the spaces, especially on the black panel. Very intricate, calculated, time-consuming needlework. You can read all about them on Textile Atlas. But I want to point out one thing. Did you know that all these patterns vary from home to home? So the secret is really embedded into the base stitch, which is recorded by each woman on the Lao Ma Hua, which is the mother stitch. Basically, these are like samplers. When a girl learned the embroidery from their mothers, they would practice on a plain piece of cloth. And to me, this is like their homeschool textbook, basically, and their childhood memory. An item that's coded with relationship with their mother, their diaries. If I was to display these samples in an exhibition, they probably tell more about the textile and the cultural heritage than the finished outfit in the last slide. What about a legacy to pass on? So this is the 100-bird costume in a which is a very culturally important, technically and visually excessive piece of item, found also across minority groups in southwest China. It is made with over 40 panels of embroidered felt silk. The finished piece is a magnificent costume. It takes 6 months to a year to make one, from growing the silkworm to felt making, color dyeing, motif designing and cutting, embroidering, adding some more batik details in between and sewing up. Now, who will commit to making one, let alone perfecting the skills to make it one's profession? So when I visit Yang, the master of batik and 100-bird costume making, she so proudly introduced me to her daughter-in-law, as you can see here, who's picking up the skills and planning to keep the tradition going. Makers of this craft is super rare. I tracked so long to find one, and documenting it as it gets passed on is a very crucial moment. So I'm coming to the last section about the legacy on objects and bodies. While we were still in Guizhou, this next textile is hand pleating. a very common piece of item in the outfit of many minority groups, like the Miao and the Dong people. But this particular case is found in Sidong amongst the Miao. Besides the neatly pleated fabrics, there are embroidery embedding historical stories. Again, if you stretch open the skirt, which I can't do it here, but you can see between the black bit and the orange stripes, there's a row of embroidery. If you stretch them open, it actually tells the story of the Miao ancestors migrating from their former land to their current land in modern Guizhou. So again, to me, this is a history book. And to them as well. This is the only way to really tell the history and pass on before the newer generation get education. So when I said hand pleat, how exactly is this pleated by hand? Here. Does it have sound? So the wooden bucket is an object that shares the textile story as well. I found it fascinating. One of my recent exhibition actually included a bucket. And the embodied movement is key for operating this bucket. You might be able to see one of her legs actually keep control of the rolling of the bucket as this goes round and the pleating continues. Obviously, it does take a long time as well. So it takes her about 3 weeks to complete enough materials for a skirt that you can see on the other side. So I worked with this particular artisan, and she pleated a set of materials for Narrative Made's collection. It's really interesting to note that this type of setup is not the only way to make pleated skirt, obviously. Sometimes the fabrics are hanged vertically against the wall, sometimes it's laid flat on a board. It all depends on the traditional way of that village, and also it reflects the physical space that is available and different types of housing. So the architecture of that village design actually contribute also to what method they use to make a certain type of outcome, the pleated skirt. You can see here the textile making is a witness of history and of lifestyle, and the legacy needs to be recorded. It needs to be recorded as urbanization is really on the edge of this village, and it's daily influencing the way of life of these people. Most of the villagers that I encounter have, I guess, this constant decision to make whether they go into construction work, because that's another relatively more stable income for the areas. So our final stop is in Oaxaca in Mexico, a bit of a jump there. But rock weaving is one of the well-practiced textile crafts there, so I've thought that it would be nice to include also different gender. These brothers can manage to weave across 2 meters wide, and they told me weaving is so demanding to the body. The loom is their work and also their gym. So let's see how that happens. It's very intense. I tried about 5 minutes to do one row, and they have to redo it. And look at how weaving is passed on in this family. Boys started learning and practicing with a wooden chair at around the age of 9 or 10. And this exercise, again, turned everyday object into a very important part of his childhood memory and his journey to weaving. So the Textile Atlas really seeks to make this kind of anthropological and technical research approachable to general public. Since launching, it's been listed as resources for more like craft council or researchers. portals, and it has linked designers and makers together, as well as collectors and researchers, which is quite beyond what I intended for, but I realized that it is really a legacy that we are celebrating, and people can have different interpretation with it, but it's a mutual sharing platform. It's really meant to celebrate mutual understanding and celebrating cultural diversity. So I hope that as you have a chance to browse through the website, maybe you can see that as well and get to understand that there is a lot of joy in people who are quite distant from your lifestyle through what they make. So there are about 18 stories from 18 regions now. It's run by a network of contributors and researchers around the world. Many of you guys are textile experts. So if you have any suggestions, stories to share, artisans to be pinned to the map, please do come and collaborate. And we're just here to make this a sharing platform. So I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. So we just received a very, very exciting news. Although Ms. Nguyen Huyen, who is the founder and also coordinator of Textile Linker from Hanoi, might not be joining us today, but she sent us a video to say hi.
Hello, everybody. My name is Huyen, come from Vietnam. Firstly, I would like to say thank you to Chat for your invitation, and especially I would like to say thank you to Paula and Mizuki for your wonderful support. Unfortunately, last time I cannot come to Hong Kong, but I hope someone from Chat can present my report about Vietnamese heritage textile. And if you have any question about Vietnam textile, don't hesitate to contact me. And if I know something, I will be glad to share everything with you. And hope the forum will be successful and you can enjoy the presentation. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.
So Huyen also sent us a presentation. It will be presented by Mizuki, co-director of Chat.
Hello. Yeah, one of the advantages in working for the textile-related institutions, you will have a lot of excuse for shopping. August last year, I went to Hanoi with my very good friend, and I did a bunch of the shoppings of beautiful textile on in the Sunday afternoon. Then on the way back to the hotel, we happened to meet the Hui's workshop in the off-site of the city center of the Hanoi. And many young girls are weaving and also doing the workshops and in the courtyard. It was very beautiful scene. And then they actually giving the small card and having their website. And I checked their website when I back to Hong Kong, and it was actually beautifully made and the design. So that was really impressive, and they decided to invite her for this textile discussion forum. But unfortunately, she had to cancel 3 days ago. So then let me introduce her presentations on behalf of her. Okay. After studying BA of External Economics in Hanoi in 2010, I moved to work for NGO in the northern mountainous province of Dien Bien, where I found my love in ethnic textile by supporting local artisans to improve their livelihood. This experience led to my decisions of taking master course of the social entrepreneurship in 2012 in Liège, Belgium. Since then, I have been committing to contribute to Vietnamese textile wholeheartedly. After my study in Belgium from 2012 to 2014, I came back to Vietnam and would love to promote the Vietnamese heritage textile and build a platform to connect artisans with the buyers and the others. This passion led me to work as a coordinator of a project called Livelihood Improvement Project for Ethnic Women through the sustainable development of the sericulture and the weaving's value chain, supported by Swiss Agency for Development of the Cooperation. Then, in communications and marketing for Hanoi Design Center, I set up the craft shop in Shu Dan Tong in Hoi An, organizing Thai Hmong Ethnic Textile Week in Hoi An, and the Vietnamese Lifestyle Fair in Ho Chi Minh. In Hanoi Gift Show, organized by Vietcraft, I could meet Mun Lo Tim Bien, leader of Nasiang Cooperative from Dien. The Southeast Asia Regional Program, entitled New for Old, aims to promote, support, and develop the craft and design sector, helping to make it more sustainable and valuable for designers, entrepreneurs, and their communities. In December 2016, 3 craft research residencies took place in parallel in Thailand, Myanmar, and Vietnam as part of the New for Old program. 2 UK residents and 2 local residents collaborated on the research in each country. Their findings were showcased in London in May 2017. On the line, new perspective on craft in Southeast Asia follows the 3 craft research residencies that took place in parallel Thai, Myanmar, and Vietnam as a part of the British Council's works in Southeast Asia. Started in 2017 by Nguyen Huyen, Textile Linker is non-profit project to explore Vietnamese heritage textile. My experience in Vietnamese heritage textile allowed me to share the empowering story of makers, making and encourage the interdisciplinary collaboration to develop the traditional craft in modern life. In collaboration with Sam T. Tim, founder of Hoan Tien Brocade, we organized a range of events in Hanoi to promote the Thai ethnic textile. Sam T. Tim is the daughter of Sam Tin Beach, leader of Hoan Tien Cooperative in Nishan. Tin lives in Hanoi now and would like to keep the tradition alive and develop the brand Hoi Tien Brocade. I met her when we worked in the Vietnam Vietcraft together. I helped her to set up the workshop and organize some events, and now she can organize by herself. I also assisted her to develop the website. Textile Linker collaborated with Thai ethnic artisan Sam Tin to organize the first natural dye and shibori workshop in Hanoi. During the workshop, we learned of the Asian techniques and the masterful use of the working with natural dye taken from garden, gray from tea leaves, lime green from Tammenia kappa leaves, yellow from fiagra, or pink from tea bag pan. We also explored the traditional Japanese technique of the shibori, fold, and tie-dyeing to create the repeat patterns on different materials of fabrics like hemp, cotton, and silk. We also collaborated with Sam Tin to organize a Thai hand embroidery workshop. During the workshop, we learned how to embroider traditional Thai motifs on their textile and learned the meaning of patterns such as mystical animals, dragon, phoenix, wild animals like elephant, horse, deer, turtle, tiger, plants, flowers, objects of everyday life, and the Vietnamese alphabet letters into pattern in themselves. With Titin, we also organized a Thai ethnic hand weaving workshop. During the workshop, we learned how to weave the traditional Thai motif on their textiles and learned the meaning of patterns. And also the Vietnamese alphabet, how to weave the Vietnamese alphabet letters into the pattern. We present the event called the Pattern Story, including an antique Thai fabric showcase, talk, embroidery workshop, and a weaving experimentation, exploring ingenious stories behind the decorative patterns of the Thai ethnic vintage textile from Quy Sao District, Nhian Province. The event formed part of the Textile Linkers project to explore the Vietnamese heritage textile and connect the artisans with others. Thai people often say, hold hands now, then see the cloud, raise hands to see flowers. Brocade making is a very important culture attached to the Thai from birth, grow up until the return to the sky. Each brocade starts with cotton, silklooms, spinning, natural dyeing, weaving, and embroidery. It is a wholehearted and creative workflow process. The talent of the Thai women are most visible in the stage of creating patterns on the fabric. It seems to be the secret work that had been passed down from generation to generation for hundreds of years. However, as life becomes more modern and the culture integration goes to every Thai village, the traditional platform are gradually being lost. Many patterns have been lost, or only few orders artisans can replicate, and no young artisan nearby want to continue the traditional profession. The natural world is reflection on various patterns. There are lambs, flowers, some birds, elephants, deer, tigers, and horsemen, which are expressed in symbolic, simplified way. The motifs are often symmetrical, reflected the conceptions of the harmony, eternal life, and cosmetic consumption, the yin and yang philosophy, the earth and the universe. The many motifs appeared on the skirts, scarves, and the Thai ancient quilts. Min Sam T. Beach, head of Horn Team Brocade Cooperative, said, in the past, there were no weather forecasts, so people considered animals such as dragonflies or ducks flying low, flying high, become an early forecast of the rain, sandstorm, and the flood to the people. Thus, the Thai embroidered animals' motifs to their gratitude, either dragging their dragons or elephants into the decorative motif into the blanket or skirt, because Thai people believed these animals bring system to human beings. The pattern is very important to the Thai people because it consists of both strength and love, both joyful and happiness. It is a brocade. The event will be accompanied by the talk with the Thai ethnic artisans to share more cultural story and the craft villages. During the weekend, embroidery workshops and the weaving examinations make the traditional technique closer to the participant, and they can do the ethnic patterns by themselves in Hanoi. Through these activities, the event emphasized the message of the Textile Linker project that presentations and development of handicraft products may not be possible by individual. Instead, project would like to connect artisans with others as designers, artists, researchers, businessmen, and consumers in order to develop the traditional craft in modern life. Vietnamese handcraft textile free markets takes place on Saturday and Sundays, in October this year at the Creative Atlas. Ethnic minority people and selected artisans from Ho Bin, Nhian will come to sell products which utilize their traditional skill. Textile Linker collaborated with Ho Tien Brocade Cooperative to organize Thai ikat dyeing and weaving workshop located in the western of Nguyen, a big province that connected the north and central parts of Vietnam. Quy Chao is inhabited by ethnic people whose tradition is based in rice cultivation, and the craft of the textile people whose tradition is based in rice cultivations, and the crafts of the textile and the woodwork. Brocade weaving of the Thai people in Hoi Thiang traditional village, Quy Chao district has been existed for such a long time. Brocade products were originally made for the family needs and to use as dowry when girls come her to husband's house. Thai women in Ho Tien adapt with the silk and the cotton, especially the distinguished natural dyeing technique from herb, flower, leaf, bark, has made Ho Tien brocade ranks as a high-value added products. We also collaborated with Blue Moon artisans to organize a batik and indigo dyeing workshop. Mai Chao is one of the most beautiful valleys in the mountainous province of Hoa Binh, located about 150 kilometers west of Hanoi. A short 30 kilometers right from the center of Ma Chao district, nestled away from the mountains, main road is tiny village of Po Ko. This commune is situated in high hills at the altitude 1,500 meters above sea level, and the deep valleys often blanked by dense fog. Entering Po Ko village occupied preliminarily by Blue Moon, in the family of the 54 ethnic groups of Vietnam, the Blue Moon are renowned for the mesmerizing indigo batik, harmoniously mixed with the patchwork and the cross-stitching. Throughout their history, hemp plants and hemp weaving has been an indispensable part of Hmong culture, only weaving hemp cloths that avoid losing ancestors. The textile linkers are very pleased to be invited to volunteer for education to develop the textile workshop for Lolo artisans in Lolo Chai village, Lun Chu, Ha Jiang. The consultant team included Nguyen Huyen, founder and coordinator of Textile Linker project, Huan Dao, lecturer of Hanoi Fine Arts University and the researcher of Vietnamese traditional costume, and the Lin Trinh, designer. We took 3 months for researching and realizing 2 field trips to frame the weaving and embroidery workshop with Lolo artisan. Cross-stitch is the most remarkable embroidery of Lolo artisans in Lu Q with the mixed 5 colors thread, red, green, blue, yellow, and white on the black fabric. Whereas hand weaving is also very special when the Lolo artisan's body becomes the weaving room with his belly and legs framing the room. Hope you will have the chance to go to Lolo Chai and join the textile workshop with volunteer for education. Yeah, this is how the body is become Lu. So Textile Linker create the data of artisans, shops, brands, training course, workshop, tour in textile craft sector of Vietnam. The list is updating on their homepage. Yeah. So please pay a visit of their Facebook and very beautiful designed website, and they're forming very beautiful communities in the Vietnam and expanding to the global textile lovers. So please pay a visit the Textile Linker when you have an opportunity. Thank you. And I also want to take this opportunity to introduce our second volume of Textile series book, which was just launched a week before, and introduce the chief editor of Janice Jeffries. Please, Janice, come to the front.
Thank you, everyone, and for your patience, and to thank everyone for organizing this trip. I'm a little bit of a stand-in. Obviously, I'm in partnership with Mizuki here, but I hope you'll bear with me while I do a summary and encourage you, which is my job, to purchase this rather wonderful book with many wonderful essays. Now, I've got about 10 minutes, so I'll be given a sign, I'm sure. So I've called it Textiles as Social Fabric, why not? And I'm starting by just saying that obviously, and you'll hear again and again how textiles have been essential to human life since whoever's prehistory. Functional aspects, ability to keep warm, wrap up, contain, carry, mop up, clean and hide in everyday lives, in medicine, in hygiene, laundering and cleaning, and so on, and used to drive an argument for textile ubiquity as central to the development and betterment of human culture. They've been traded for millennia and the continuing focus of technological and artistic innovation. In other words, they've always operated at the intersection of individual practice, collective and group activity. Now let me suggest, which is another plug for the first book, that you read Edwin Kay's essay, The Tapestry of Industry. Now the first publication, which you can also purchase, and my colleague over there will wave it to you, Textiles Series number 1.0, Ariadne's Thread, in 2006. And you'll get a fuller picture by reading Edwin's essay, amongst other essays, of how global circulation of textiles starts with local manufacture and expands into how migration and consumption of those textile artifacts has also resulted in a global network of industrial manufacture, trade, commerce, export, and consumption. As Edwin noted, the development of modern Hong Kong has been powered by several generations, primarily of young women, who worked in the textile and garment factories during the transformative years in the middle of the last century. Kay argues that there is, at the present time, a resurgent interest of regional textile industries, plural, reflective of heritage and cultural specificity through localism and the inverted commas green movement, community neighborhood-based projects where intergenerational skills are shared, enhanced, and valued. So if we think about textiles as a social fabric in which the oldest technologies of sewing, of patching, of cutting, of making, of crafting, and now hooking up to the internet as we're hearing today, are bringing different kinds of practices into different kinds of connectivities. In other words, gathering new transmissions of knowledge, new dialogues, ways of knowing, and ways of composing new work and new relationships. Hey, Let's Weave has been part of Chat's ongoing community engagement and learning program. And where is him? Him is at the back. Wave him, please. In advance of the opening of the mill in which we are now located. It's dedicated to reactivating the legacy of Hong Kong's textile industry and to bridge communities and generations through participatory textile experiences, oral history, testimonies, and documentation. And I have to make another plug for an extraordinarily beautiful book called Through the Lens, the photographic archive of how this mill has been transformed into what we experience today. It's absolutely stunning. Now, this might be part of, stories about community are told by those who worked in the textile factories. This might be part of an invisible heritage amidst the tools and machines, the shuttle noise and the winding frames, but these stories are as invaluable in the narration of history, of time and place. So why does community matter? Whose story is told, by whom, and who listens? The symposium last year, convened by Chat, was called Why Community Matters, What Are We Weaving? So freshly off the press, Textile Series 2, Fab Public talking about textile Community and Public Space, is the title of this book, and it explores some of these questions. I'm sure you're going to rush and buy a copy immediately in the tea break, and if you don't, you'll have me to deal with. All right, so it's published in Chinese and English. It's divided into 3 sections, each containing specific case studies and extended essays from some of the participants who were in the symposium. Now, Mizuki notes in her introduction the double meaning of Fab Public. The term Fab Public was created from the combinations of the words fabric, fabulous, and public. So with 17 speakers and moderators from Hong Kong and overseas, this edition emphasizes what is called Fab Public, talking about textiles, community, and public space. Now, we all know, if we were writing and in publishing, that there are limits, so not all the individual papers have been published. But of course, in buying the book, you can read Mizuki's essay to establish the context of the aims of the publication. So you have writers, artists, makers, collectives, educationalists, designers, architects, curators, museum specialists, gathered to explore different aspects of forming communities, much as we are gathered today to discuss textile legacies. You can also read the dialogue between Hu Pu-kyung and myself, which is an East-West dialogue around what is the condition of community building in cities and in rural environments, that in part on how we wish and want to sustain our lives. Hui argues that we should always be attentive to the question, why community matters, or why building up connections matter. We agreed, however, on the significance of the sociologist Richard Sennon's ideas of cooperation and of redefining the public realm as powerfully expressed in his 2012 book, Together the Rituals, Pleasures, and Politics of Cooperation. Now, Sennett advises that collaboration and building communities require more than goodwill. It is a craft that requires skill. In modern society, traditional bonds are waning. We're hearing about this today. And we want to develop new forms of secular, civil, ritual making that makes us more skillful in living with others. The gathering of the social and being more skillful in living and working with others, as well as gathering material through cooperation, is vital to the future. You will find in Winnie Law's account, The Future of Rural Communities, a story of the consequences that climate change has had. It gives rise to a global concern over the future sustainability, indeed, of rural and many other communities. She vividly describes the case of La Chin Wo, where artists in villages are working with communities to build sustainability. And the second section of the book provides case studies on creating communities through redefining fashion. The link between the two is around the question of sustainability. Pascal Gatzan thinks and makes clothing which is sustainable. At the core of her approach to the world of fashion is about working in different collectives as appropriate to the forms of clothing produced. It is also the core of an identity as part of a cooperative of which she is a part. As she writes in her essay, quote, page 52, every aspect of our value chain is about a human relationship of mutuality and exchange. Yoshikinara Nishikyo continues the theme with fashionscape design, creating new situations for wearing clothes, in a very lively piece of writing about his practice, which he considers aiming, quote, to redeem the active engagement of people as clothing practitioners and restore the latent communicative possibilities of clothing, page 63. And the final part about communication and collaboration is in the third section, called Textile Intervention to Transformation of Communities. Communication and collaboration are core values that the Australian artist Nicole Barakat explores in her essay collaboration and community, transforming the conditions of everyday life. As an artist and facilitator for the last 15 years, working with many diverse communities, the ability to build trust, and we've heard that today, depends heavily on existing relationships and building new ones. Often projects have been initiated by arts organizations or art institutions, where in the case of Bangkok Sulup, a group of artists who are part of a much larger one known as the Tamu Tamu Collective, they organize cultural events and run workshops across Malaysia and Borneo. Operating at the level of social activism, they have used printmaking images with villagers to protest against the dam and damage to their environment as well. And in the last section, so I was a bit previous, it wasn't the final section, this is the final section of the book, concerns curatorial challenges in textile arts museums. You'll hear later from Errol, who's with us today, who digs deep into the rich industrial heritage of the textile museum he runs in Tilburg, in the Netherlands. How then to make a museum of making relevant to the 21st century? How to build and sustain new audiences and a new generation of artists, designers, and users? How to engage them in different workshops, archives, and museum collections? To know more, and perhaps even know how, you'll have to again buy the book and read his thought-provoking essay. You see, I don't miss a trick. The final essay in this collection is by Frankie Su, director of the Hong Kong Museum in Taipei, in Taiwan. She gives the reader some marvelous anecdotes and stories of how to manage and weave, quote, a relationship between textile history and audience, as it relates to a private collection of mostly old Chinese embroidery and a group of senior citizens who are an essential part of the museum's life force, and through different contemporary art exhibitions which cross-fertilize both. So there we have it, an exciting collection of essays that re-emphasize textiles as essential to human life, to cultural heritage, embedded in material forms and critical thinking, significant in trade and industry, an essential part of our everyday life, of sacred and ceremonial customary practices, and the potential for sustainable futures. Then, that is the power of textile. A moment in time, a piece of cloth, a stitched hem, a flow of material that can make and remake the social in every fold, in every trade, and in every human exchange between people and their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice.